Wajumbe, Ojo, Wajumbe.
Like a bushy boosh boosh. A cue. A cue. Right.
And we're rolling. You're rolling? Anytime you're ready.
We are here at the Village Recording Studio in Los Angeles, California on May 31st, 2021. Recording my new solo album, The Future is Calling. And the producer is this handsome guy, Jeff Weber.
You need glasses.
I'm going to ask him some fun questions and see if I can pry some information out of him. And we're just starting the recording today, so we're, our brains are thinking about everything we're going to do in the next couple of days for this process. So, Jeff, thank you, first of all. Thank you from my heart for orchestrating this amazing album. And my first question is, how many total albums would you say you have produced?
Yours is the first.
No, it's different. I just graduated.
The drums are on cue.
Yeah, well, it's actually. I'm going to close that door.
Okay, yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, because otherwise we're going to have... Yeah.
Okay.
We're going to... All right, starting over. '31st, 2021. How many albums do you think you have produced?
Well, even though I can't remember most of them, I know that it's over 200.
Wow. Okay.
But every record is my first record. You know what I
I
mean?
love it. Good answer. What do you think is the most challenging aspect of what you do? What's the most difficult thing besides dealing with us maniacs?
I think the challenge, of course, is to do the amount of music that we are doing within the time frame that we've allotted with the funding that we've been given. So we don't want to compromise anything, but we have a lot to do at a level of excellence that, our names are on the record, so we have to have that
Right.
in order to be not competitive, but just in our own hearts and our own minds, just to know that we've done something that means something.
Love it. So we have to be on our game. We have to be fierce. Yeah. Cool.
Sorry.
What?
I'm good. Sorry.
Go right ahead.
Oh, I didn't know. Sorry.
You go right ahead.
Okay.
No, this is
Part of the interview.
Yeah.
yeah, you're
Reaction.
yeah.
Yes.
This
This is Clark, the recording engineer.
Hello.
So, what inspired you to get into this
So you got my
lovely
drive.
music business and, decide to be a producer? Do you remember that moment where you thought, you know what, I can pull people together and make something magical happen? Like what was...
To be honest with you, I wish it was as romantic as that, or as educational as that, but it didn't even happen like that. I had been to law school, and that was extravagantly fulfilling on every level. And I was working as a gopher for a record company called Sheffield Lab, and they did high quality recordings. And I was just a gopher, I just took notes and pressed stop on tape machines and things like that. And I was a journalist, and I had been contacted by Cashbox magazine, which was one of the three record industry trade publications at that time, and they were looking for somebody who basically could write about the lawsuits, because in the music business at that time everybody was suing everybody, and they wanted somebody that had law school experience that could synthesize the lawsuits down to 3 paragraphs for their readers, and which is not a comment on the intellectual appeal of their readers or their ability to read, but nevertheless it did make a difference. I decided that because of all the records that I heard at Cashbox, which were mostly trash, that even somebody like me that didn't know anything about anything could do a recording. And so I thought, oh, okay, I'm Jeff Weber, the record producer. Had I known then what I know now, I would have chosen another occupation. But
Because the music business is so predictable and sane.
Of course.
Right.
And so I went to 3 musicians and I said, I'm Jeff Weber, the record producer. I'm sure you've heard of me. Wink, wink. And I want to do a record with you for a company in St. Louis. And I went to at the same time, I went to the company in St. Louis and I said, you make record care cleaning products. Why don't you make a record and treat it as a marketing tool that you can give away at, electronic shows and things like that. And they said, okay, write us a proposal. I had just graduated from law school, so I had no idea what that was. So I wrote a term paper. And they said, okay, let's do it. I think I charged them $1,600 for my services for 9 months. I was still living at home at the time.
Right.
And I was afraid that the musicians who would ask me, might we have heard anything that you've done? Which is kind of like what everybody asks, but
Right.
being musicians, they decided to ask, so what are we getting paid? And of course I had no idea. So I said, what do you want? And they told me a number, and I said, okay. And then they said, where are we recording? And I'm thinking, where are we recording? It's a good question. So at that time they actually had Yellow Pages, and I looked up recording studios. I didn't know. Why was I looking up recording studios? What would I know? So I saw a studio in Hollywood called RCA Studios. And RCA Studios, at least I knew the picture of the dog. And so I went there and I said, hey, I'm Jeff Weber. I'm producing these 3 guys, and I'd like a tour, which is the stupidest thing to say, because what are they going to, they're going to show me around. I won't know anything. And then they asked me, who was my engineer? I'm thinking, doesn't this place come with its own engineer? And of course it didn't. And I asked, who do you recommend? So they recommended somebody to me. It was the wrong guy, but we did the record. And I got a call from the musician saying, what are we playing? And I'm thinking to myself, best we do music where I don't have to talk, because I don't know what to say. So I decided that we would do songs that were old enough that they knew them already, okay? So we did an album of standards, but we did it direct to disc, which means that the entire side had to be recorded at one time directly onto a lacquer. Cool. There's no tape. It's a very dangerous way to record. A mistake in the 3rd or 4th song.
You have to start from the beginning.
And at that particular point, we went directly to what's known as a cutting lathe. We didn't have tape, but there weren't any cutting lathes in the recording studio. But in the building
What year would this have been?
1978. So the cutting lathes were on the 3rd and the 5th floor, 2 separate companies that had nothing to do with the recording studio. So they threw lines outside the building down into the studio. And in order for us to start, the needle that's cutting the groove has to come down and start the groove, and the little filament that is left when the stylus cuts into the lacquer has to be sucked into a vacuum tube and then goes into a bottle filled with water, because it's highly flammable. And if it doesn't go into that tube and starts going haywire, that lacquer is defective. And so in order for us to start the recording, I had to actually make a physical phone call to the actual companies and wait for them to tell me that, okay, the chip is in the groove. They called the chip, which is the little filament. And so I would hear from them, okay, the style, and then it was a race to point to the axe, and they would count off with the 4 being silent, and then the whole side would go and hopefully not run into the paper.
Wow. What a freaking process. It sounds so primitive.
It's the most direct, and it actually takes advantage of true artistry and true musicians. And the
Right.
musicians that we used were fearless. They just thought this was another Tuesday, Tuesday in the
Right.
studio. Paul Smith, Ella Fitzgerald's piano player, Ray Brown, one of the greatest jazz bass players of all time, and Louis Bellson, a drummer par excellence, and I know you know him. These guys just played it like they had rehearsed it a million times. There was no rehearsal. Paul wrote some head charts, and
Off you went.
off you went. And then the way it worked at that time for me was, after we finished the recording, the grooves start to straighten themselves out on a master lacquer, because the lacquer itself is very soft. So in order to get the grooves to stop straightening themselves out, so what I mean by that is the stylus will cut grooves like this, So on the high frequencies, it's just like this, like you would see on an earthquake measurement. But on the low passages, it goes like this, back and forth. So you get that nice punch and the vitality of the upper registers. But what happens when the lacquer starts to straighten itself out, all of these things that go like this are now going like this, right? So the impact is softened. So we had to get it in what's called a plating bath, which is like a, photo, like when you're developing photographs, you want to stop the development. So we wanted to stop the lacquer from moving. So, and ultimately the plating bath is, there's electricity that goes through that, and nickel pellets start to adhere to these lacquers, and then ultimately the result is there are stampers. And the stampers are basically at that time used to stamp out these little pucks, which then get smashed into LPs. So I had to get on a plane at midnight to go to New York. That's where the best plating plant was. I waited in the lobby until they said the stampers are ready, and I flew to Japan, because that's where the best pressing plants were. And that was how I did every record. So it was a full thing.
Right.
And then I had fun creating the album covers. We didn't have any record labels at the time that were interested, so except for our own. So I created the whole. It was fantastic, and 180 gram. And I've talked for way too long about this question, have I not?
I love it.
You asked.
I love all this geeky recording stuff. Well, I thank you. We're excited about today. And here we go.
All right, let me tell you a little bit about this recording. Okay.
That's a great idea. It's a great idea.
Okay, you're not getting off that easy. So imagine my hair is black and doesn't come off at night,
Right?
and I get a phone call from you, somebody that I did not know. I don't even know how you found me or something like that. This is 35 years ago, back in the 1880s. And and you said something to the effect, correct me if I'm wrong, "Hey, Jeff, you don't know me, but, can we do some songs together?" And I said, sure, why not? And 35 years ago, we did 4 songs. And we used the finest musicians on the planet at that time. And you took a hell of a long time to decide to work with me again, because here we are 35 years later. But in the meantime, you were a music teacher all this time, but secretly writing, secretly playing out 5 nights a week. And we decided that we were going to do another few songs
for the purest of reasons. Not to compete at radio, not to, there's no fashion statements here. This is just basically for the purity of the music, which is the most honest and wonderful way to make records. So many records are based on beats per minute and, radio
Beats and loops, right.
compression and charts and all this other stuff. And it can't be more than 3 minutes and 52 seconds. And so in our case, this was coming from a good place, as they say. So we again, took into consideration your loves, horns, strings, background vocals, percussion, and came up with a rhythm section, par excellence, that really you can't really touch. Interestingly enough, the drummer 35 years ago was Vinnie Colaiuta, probably one of the top 5 drummers on the planet in recorded music. Vinnie is our drummer today, 35 years later. And what's so amazing about it is that he actually remembers.